Hey there, everybody. I hope everything's going well with you. And yeah, that's Penny back there. Decided she didn't want to get under the covers for some reason, I guess. Last week or something, I had everything all ready and waiting to go until I got online, and then the computer decided to give me technical difficulties because I couldn't save anything, and so it was really difficult for me to put something out if I couldn't do that. Now, this has got something to do with where I'm coming from today, to some degree. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to save my work because I had a lot of things that I had to get into, like some student grades. So I had, and essentially, if you will, my gradebook kind of thing I couldn't access, which made life difficult. So I had to figure out how to do things like that, which brought me into, believe it or not, this particular quote today, which came from, or at least a lot of people consider it coming from Theodore Roosevelt. Now, in turn, Theodore Roosevelt said somebody else gave it to him and he read it from somebody else. And a lot of other people say something similar, but many people, at least when I checked this one out, said that they seem to get it from Theodore Roosevelt, who in turn got it from somebody else. Yeah, but anyway, so it's take your pick. The quote, do what you can with what you've got with where you are. Now, I thought about that with this because I was thinking of everything I had to do. And then the computer, gave me technical difficulties. And it's like I had to remind myself that all I can do is what I can with what I've got with where I was. So there was no point in my getting really frustrated about everything, even though I was getting frustrated, but it had to help calm me down to figure out, well, okay, this is the situation I've got. I can't do much else. I can't go ahead and say, like, record this exactly and post it if I can't access the computer and access what I've already saved about it. I could conceivably go back and redo it, but then I still couldn't save that for future reference, so to do anything else with it, which got me into the thinking about how many things that we all need to do in a long-term basis. Um, and we tell ourselves that we can't do things. Um, Again, if you're in school, I can't do that because I can't do math. I can't write a report. I can't get up in front of people. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whatever it is that we tell ourselves. And so from this quote, then I'll make it simpler. I'll just say from Roosevelt's quote, do what you can with what you've got with where you are. That's pretty much all you can do, really. Seriously. I mean, if you don't have a particular skill, you can't very well just gain that skill right then, right there. You've got to work toward acquiring that skill, right? So that when you're trying to do something, ride a bike, give a speech, write a paper, whatever that may be, all you can do is get started doing what you can with where you are, with what you've got. You're going to say, well, gee, I can't do this. I can't paint the house because I don't have the tools. I don't have this. I don't have. Well, that's true up to a point. The thing about it is here is to start looking at what you do have and figuring out what needs to be done and how you can work toward those tasks. Now, one thing I know a lot of people talk about is because they don't have the time to do this. It's a big task. How am I going to do it? Or they tend to procrastinate or some such thing like that. So it's if you break things down into a smaller segment of looking at things so that you can do small things with what you've got with where you are, it's going to be much easier to do things on a small basis, or at least for most tasks anyway. There's some things you have to do because you can't do it, in small tasks, though I can't think of anything right at this moment. But generally speaking, it's better to do small things in bits and pieces and just add on to that to get something accomplished. Okay? Does that make sense? I thought about something. I'm having to do as an instructor. I have to do certain things called what's referred to as professional development hours. You probably have something like that in some of your job, or some of you do anyway. Or you've got things that you have to do. You have to read a particular book, or you have to write a paper, or you have to do certain things that you need to get done at this time of year. Maybe it's doing the taxes. Um, so in a sense, using this quote, do what you can with what you've got with where you are. Do, something small. Now, which led me into thinking about something I was doing with my professional development hours. Where I'm coming from with that is I realized that I needed so many hours by the end of June. In this case, I'm going to say 8 hours for the simple math here. That's March, April, May, June. That gives me 4 months. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to do some really basic math. So don't roll your eyes at me. I'm not, it's just, I want you to listen to the whole thing and see where I'm going with this, because then you might be able to adapt this to whatever your purpose is without having to do the basic math. But this is the way I happen to do it. Okay. Just don't roll your eyes right at me. Okay. So I figured I've got 4 months and 8 hours. That automatically told me that I've got something, if I worked on something, that I could do 2 hours a month. Okay. I said, okay, I can do that. And I could further break it down into half an hour a week. Now notice what I'm doing is I'm breaking down one major task, in other words, getting all that training hours into something that's smaller and more doable. If I think in terms of 8 hours, it's like, oh gee, that's going to be the whole weekend, all day, blah, blah, blah. If I think in terms of half an hour a week, it becomes much easier to do. Okay? So if I wanted to break it down further, or I could break it down further, 15 minutes a day or whatever, so that you can start to take a look at how to take those tasks and break them down into smaller segments. Can you now see how, in a sense, I did the approach with the math? I kept taking it down to a smaller segment until it got to be something that was much more doable. If you think in terms of having to read 400 pages in the next month or in the next week or whatever, if you break that down into something that's much more simple to what you need to do today or tomorrow or whatever, this can change, because let's suppose I get sick this next week and I can't do anything. Then I can modify that and realize that, okay, I've got not quite a whole hour, but maybe 45 minutes every week. It gives me something that I can adjust and start looking at. And once I realize that I can do small tasks, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day to work toward that, it becomes easier for me to plan or schedule those particular tasks so I can get done. So I'm not at the end of June trying to figure out how to spend the whole weekend doing what I need to do, because I've already accomplished it. Okay? Does that make sense? So you don't have to do it necessarily from a math standpoint, though you can do it. I mean, and that makes it easier. But if you just look at what do you have to do, what can you do today that helps get you there? You don't have to do everything today. Take what you've got where you are, the time you've got, and that includes what you've got, can include time, mind you. So can you schedule, or will you schedule, which is probably more important, will you schedule the 15 minutes or the 10 minutes or the 30 minutes to get something done, so you start checking things off so you can get toward that task over the course of time? Okay? Does this make sense? So most tasks that you've got can be broken down into subtasks. And if you spend 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week. Now, some things, let's say, as I mentioned before, math, really aren't good to do in 30 minutes, because you can't really take a look at one problem, do one problem today, and then do one problem tomorrow, and then do one problem 3 days from now, unless you're really good at it and know what you're doing. Most people tend to need to get into somewhat of a groove and work on a problem and work on a couple problems while they're sort of going along in that same mindset. But if you recognize that this is the nature of that specific kind of problem, then you realize that you need larger segments of time. Now, having said that, let's just say you've got, I don't know, 10 math problems or 20 math problems or whatever. If you break that down into what can you do in a specific time set that gives you, in a sense, of motivation, that you're rolling along and you're getting something done and you feel like you're accomplishing something, what does that mean? Does it mean maybe doing 3 problems? Can you do, 3 problems, for example, and you feel like, okay, you got going, you sort of maintain your pace, and you were able to accomplish 3, and you figured, okay, I've got it, I know what I'm doing. So that maybe you can do another 3 problems next weekend or some such thing like that whenever the time comes up. So if you take a look at what your skills are, what you have and what you can do, where you are, you're more likely to be able to get things done. But you have to really be honest with yourself about what you can do and what your skills are, and just recognize the fact that if there's something that you think you can't do, if you break it down into something simple enough, you probably can do something. Does that help? You're trying to read something in a foreign language. It's going to take time and effort, but can you do, say, like a page? Can you do a paragraph? Something is better than nothing. It's better to go into a foreign language. I clearly remember doing this and having to try and read some things in a foreign language. It's better to do a page or two at a time than it is to take a look at the whole book and say, I can't do this, then shutting the book and not getting it done and showing up in class and saying, I can't do this. Or this could be a work thing. You've got a specific task and you say, I can't do this, like getting up and giving a speech, and then you freak out. If you break it down into small segments, maybe figuring out what to give the speech on, preparing the speech, not even thinking about the speech, but look at the topic and preparing it and figuring out, okay, maybe if I write the speech, I can get somebody else to give it, but at least you're going in different directions to get something done. Okay? So I hope this helped. Please let me know what you think about it. And if you like my idea or you're not like my idea of the math or not, I'd really appreciate it. And we'll get back on track and hopefully finish off with some of the things I intend to do. And get the computer fixed. So hopefully it'll go all right this week. So we'll see you later, and let me know how's it going. I appreciate it. Let me know what's going on, what you need. I really appreciate that too. Okay. See you later. Bye.